I'd like to introduce you to Bette Howell, who is going to portray John Lankford. I forgot.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Well, that's my speech. No. I'm John Lankford, and as you can tell by my gravestone, I actually spell my name Lakford. A lot of people around here spell the name Lagford, but mine's with a K. I was born March 27th, 1827 in Indianapolis, Indiana. I was the son of Robert and Sarah Lankford. My father was a native of Kentucky, and my mother a native of Virginia. They both were of the English ancestry. My father became a carpenter and a cabinet maker by trade. He died in Missouri in 1883, while my mother passed away in 1835 when I was only 8 years old. I attended a district school close to Indianapolis, and in my youthful days learned the carpenter's trade, of course, under the direction of my father. When I turned 19 years of old, I went to Preble County, Ohio, where I worked construction of the courthouse in 1849 and 1850. I spent about 4 years doing carpentry in Preble County, Ohio, and then guess what? I started westward, traveling by stagecoach to Hamilton, Ohio, then by bus to Cincinnati, and then by boat to St. Louis, Missouri, and then by boat to Keokuk, Iowa. And then I had to walk across the country to Ottumwa. I worked for a short while in carpentry in Ottumwa, and then I arrived here in Centerville. Centerville had been laid out, and at that time had a population of 100. Appanoose County, however, was a frontier district and contained only 150 voters. Much of the land was still in the possession of the government, for only here and there settlement had been made, showing the work of civilization and improvement had begun. During the winter, following my arrival here, I opened up a shoe shop, and in the spring, I began work at carpenter's trade, which I did again for the next 15 years. On September the 21st, I married in Centerville Miss Nancy Jane Henderson. Her parents were natives of Kentucky as well, and were representatives of old American families. We had 8 children born to this union. They were William, Sarah, Heber, Beatrice, Grace, Carl, Roy, and Leona. In 1865, I engaged in the furniture and undertaker business, buying out Pennington and Houston. From then until 1912, I was ahead of that business, and because of my enterprising methods, my sound judgments, and my energy were all factors in my growing success, making me ultimately one of the prosperous residents of Centerville. In 1912, I sold this business to my son Roy, who went on to be the leading furniture dealer in Centerville. Our store, I think, was at 313 North 13th, where Flower Teak is today. Later, another one of my sons also ran a furniture store in Centerville. My wife, which her first name was Nancy, but as you can see from her tombstone, she was called Jane. So my wife, Jane, and I celebrated, believe it or not, our golden wedding anniversary on September the 21st in 1902 in our home where we lived at 112 East Maple here in Centerville. And then, that wasn't all. In 1912, we celebrated our 60th anniversary. Can you believe it? Back in 1912. My wife and I both passed away at the age of 89 years of age. As you can see, my wife and I are buried over there. 3 of our children are buried here and 2 back over there. Now, here's some interesting things about me. I've been Republican since the organization of the party. A Republican, that is. I was a charter member of the Independent Order of Odd Fellows here in Centerville, and during the years held many offices, and at one time, according to the history books, I was the oldest living Odd Fellow living in Iowa. I may be that today as well. Imagine, I paid dues in the Odd Fellows Lodge for 62 years. I was also a Mason. When I retired from active business in 1912 at the age of 85, guess what? They say I was the oldest active undertaker in the United States. Now, what about that? I also helped build many of the palatial homes in Apponeuse County. I do not remember all the addresses at this time, and I wish I did so I could tell you about some of them. Here's some of the things that I did while I was alive. I was a member of the first City Council of Centerville, and when the second school building, which was 2 stories, was built in 1854, due to the growth of Centerville, I was one of the carpenters employed to build it. This building was 22 by 36 feet and cost just $1,500. I was one of the city leaders in Centerville that worked to raise the money to have the Civil War monument on the southwest side of the square built, erected, and then we dedicated it on July the 4th, 1869. The cost for this was $2,000. On this monument are carved the names of the dead heroes of Apponeuse County. This was quite an elaborate monument when it was built and erected, and the monument still stands there today on the southwest side of the courthouse. According to history, I was once declared during Civil War times that I was an abolitionist, which was a risky thing to state, for Centerville was only a short distance from Missouri, which was a slave state. Nevertheless, I was not to be deterred, and was told that I helped several slaves escape. One evening, an escaped Negro slave was found sitting on my wood pile. So I took her into the house for the night and sent her further north in the morning through the Apponeuse County Underground Railroad. I never wore an overcoat. As you can see, I don't have one on today, or gloves, no matter how cold it was, and I always went to the deceased home. So I was always seen with my straw hat on, no gloves, and no overcoat, no matter how cold. Plus I carried a small table under my arm on which the bodies were laid out, because I always went to their house. Here's a story that my daughter Leona told about me. I conducted funerals for miles around, and my hearse driver was complaining about how cold it was, even though he had 2 pairs of gloves on, and I, of course, only had on my straw hat, no gloves, and no overcoat. So on the way home after the funeral, I asked my hearse driver if he wanted to ride inside, and my driver said, "Nothing doing." He would ride on top no matter how cold. Well, you will be able to learn more about me and Centerville when Ifus McMurray's new book is out in November. But thanks for stopping by and learning about me and how I help Centerville grow. Continue on with your journey. Thank you.